Good evening and welcome on behalf of Crossroads Cultural Center. This evening we have a presentation on Letizia Morini's art. Some of you have viewed the exhibit over here. What is striking about Letizia Morini's art is the absolute value of the instant. The instant that would be inevitably fleeting if not for her camera caring enough to grab it. In the instant, her care, her attention move to what is small, seemingly insignificant. That which we, too busy, hastily living out our rabid days devoid of acts of love, to quote the Italian songwriter Fabrizio De André, would have never deemed worthy, not even of a glance. Letizia instead forces us to stop, to alter time. She uses her camera to enhance reality, to reveal it. Hers is a wise photography. Shutter clicks never improvised, but instead the fruit of a dogged passion for the thing in and of itself. A passion which becomes contagious, which by osmosis transmits itself to the eyes of the observer, wounding the heart. Everything becomes big, absolute. A tin case of sardines is transformed into a lunar landscape. An insignificant concrete block becomes a sort of Aztec pyramid. A disarming piece of paper is a metaphor for our fragility, ruffled by uneasiness. Everything, all the possible feelings which compromise the human palate, the heart-wrenching sweetness which seeps out of her portraits of children, the ferocity of a muzzle or a butchered animal carcass, the dreamy gaze at the sky or the flowers. Everything, Letizia tells us, is keeping a secret. Everything can reveal something. Photography represents that very possibility. You realize that in silences, things yield and almost betray their ultimate secrets. At times, one half expects to discover an error in nature, the still point of reality, the missing link that will not hold, the thread we cannot untangle in order to get at the truth. Letizia's pictures, however, impose a condition to those who truly want to know them: abandon. She wants to take us by the hand and help us discover that everything can be for us forever. So tonight, besides Letizia in a short video that we'll watch, we have here with us Maurizio Maniscalco, who is Letizia's uncle and also happens to be the president of New York Encounter. And we also have two young photographers, Sofia Wiener and Jennifer Cacciola. Sofia is completing her Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy in Spanish Language and Literature at Fordham. She works as a Spanish tutor at Fordham College at Lincoln Center. She currently resides in Brooklyn, New York. Jennifer is a native of Portchester, New York, and a student at SUNY Purchase. She will be receiving a Bachelor of Science in Visual Arts with minors in Chemistry and Art History. Her studio disciplines include painting, sculpture, and tapestry work. Now let's watch the video.
si è capace di avere una consapevolezza di ciò che fa, e lei secondo me ce l'ha grande, è un artista.
Rimani stupito perché le fotografie comunque rimangono qualcosa d'altro e c'è profondità in quello che fa, non c'è dubbio su questo.
Sono una sorpresa tutte le volte che la guardo, che li guardo.
Lei fotografa finché non arriva allo scatto, come fanno i grandi sostanzialmente, e lo scatto è quello giusto. Si ferma quando trova il puntum, cioè quando trova il punto emotivo in cui l'energia della sua foto è pienamente carica.
La Leti sicuramente vede la realtà con occhi diversi dai nostri.
Ci mostra qualche cosa che noi non sappiamo vedere.
Sono Maurizio Letizia, ho 23 anni, e sono nata qui a Pesaro. Io amo fare foto, sono bellissimi i posti, perché mi ha insegnato mie sorelle, poi avevo 10 anni, no? E dopo ho insegnato mio babbo, mi ha aiutato con la macchina foto grande.
E qui c'è Letizia Morini, che giovanissima ha iniziato a fare un percorso da artista, che poi lei sia speciale. Questo rende tutto, come ho detto adesso, ancora più speciale.
Letizia è un mistero.
Io penso che la Leti con la macchina fotografica in mano è come se partecipasse alla realtà.
Viene reso sacro l'istante, in particolare. Sacro, cioè reso in qualche modo altro da ciò che è.
Perché Leti ti fa veramente mettere a nudo quello che sei e la sostanza delle cose.
Quello che la colpisce, non so che cosa sia, però è sicuramente un dato della realtà che le piace e che basta all'attimo stesso.
Ci costringe a fermarci in qualche modo e a cogliere un trasalimento della natura, oppure il punto morto del mondo di cui parla Montale nei Limoni, cose che non ti aspetteresti, una cicca di sigaretta, un barattolo semivuoto di aringhe, che è una delle mie foto preferite, queste boe sospese quasi scomparse, insomma tutto diventa potentemente metaforico, ma la cosa che mi piace molto e che ne fa secondo me un artista è che non è mai casuale.
È un dono.
Io sono un fortunato.
Letizia è come se fosse un sacchetto di tè. Tu lo vedi, è una cosa piccolina, ma se metti acqua calda, cioè passione, lei crea una roba incredibile.
Maurizio Maniscalco.
I don't need this. Well, that's enough, isn't it? I'm the uncle, lo zio, as we say, and as she calls me. Speak up, louder than this. I can be pretty loud. I'm the loud uncle and the nasty uncle, according to Letizia. In fact, she wanted La Zia, my wife, to be here because La Zia loves her. The uncle always makes fun of her, which is true. And you know, it's pretty easy making fun of Letizia because Letizia is at the same time extremely special, as you can see, but she's also extremely normal. Therefore, she carries within her a number of dark sides, as we all do. Only we can manage to conceal them. She can't. So consequently, you know, making fun of her is extremely funny. So extremely easy. So, you know, she's short, she's overweight, she looks funny, she talks funny, she writes funny. And being the nasty uncle, I've always picked her on these things. And I think that's why she loves me. You know, I remember when Letizia was born. And I remember that, you know, the parents were shocked. Back in the day, I'm not even sure if there was a way, at least in our country, to detect something like Down syndrome during the pregnancy. But in any case, that wouldn't have mattered because it wouldn't have been an issue with the parents. But, you know, and I experienced this myself every time now a grandchild is born. You know, when the baby is normal, as we would say, I think it's another extra gift. It's another miracle. And so when I look back at the moment in which Letizia was born and the time in which the parents came to the realization that she was not going to be like the other girls they already had. They already had two, Martina and Giovanna. And the future looked uncertain. Well, you compare that to their faces now. You compare that to their daily life today. And you have to say, like everybody, like any other child, Letizia has been a gift. And when you understand the magnitude of a presence like this, your life has changed. I mean, I've known those guys a long time. Mauri and Esther, you know, we've been friends since the mid-70s. And Letizia made their life an already good life. It made it a mirabilia day, you know, a wonderful thing from God, from the mystery himself. And there's joy, there's pain, there's worry for the future. There's been difficulties from the very beginning. I don't know if you noticed it, but like many kids with Down syndrome, Letizia had to undergo, as a baby, she had to undergo open heart surgery. So the scar is very visible here, you know. And you know, open heart surgery, a baby, from the very beginning, you know, they were not even sure she would stay with them. But she's still around, overweight, short, funny looking, funny talking, and taking these amazing pictures. The things that she sees are not exactly the things that we see. But through her pictures, somehow, she lends us another gift, another side, another aspect of her special life. You know, that's the trailer to a documentary that they're putting together. When they told me, I called them up and I spoke to Letizia and I told her, Letizia, it's a beautiful thing. Aren't you happy? Yes. Look, what if Lo Zio writes some music for your documentary? Because I'm also a fake musician. and I heard her grump over the phone like, you know, Letty, you don't want your zio to write the music? Yes, but don't write lyrics because otherwise I'm sure they would be against me. So that's our relationship. But in a mysterious way, you know, even us here in New York, la zia, lo zio, and I cugini, you know, benefit from her existence. And yes, we too have her pictures hanging at our walls, which is something we should all do and have. Thank you.
Hi everybody. So
You're gonna have to speak up.
yeah, I don't personally know Letizia, so me and Sophie are just really speaking on our experience spending more time with these photographs than probably all of you have. So really it's just what we're taking away from them, and already that kind of presents the problem of artistic intention. So yeah, so just keep in mind that it's hard to explain art because we are not in her mind or her heart, and so this is, you know, you're watching someone's human experience with the world around them, so it's what we're understanding of the product of that. And so the first thing that I notice from her photos is the simplicity, which probably you've noticed. There really is the slideshow.
Yeah, I just
Oh,
pushed
okay.
next. Can I do that? Can you still read it?
Yeah, it's fine. And so really you'll see that there's such a simplicity there that then it makes our impulse act up and kind of want to impose more on it. We want to start to complicate it with narratives and things that aren't actually there, that I don't believe that she intended to be there. Because what I see most in her work is her being entranced totally with the physicality of the world and how particular everything is that's in it. And the first example that I wanted to show of this is probably one of the most simple images that we have here from her. It's just grass. And but when you look closely, and it's a little blown up here, but she's so in love with the flesh of the world, the flesh of the grass, the little hairs that I believe this whole thing was about, was getting these little hairs of a living thing that has physical hair, that has a physical function, all to support its living and its living well. And that's the earth. That's the earth. It's not photoshopping this green to be, wow, that's green. Like, it's not about that. It's about the fact that, like, this thing grew these hairs in a particular way, and they were designed that way for that blade of grass, you know? And so, yeah, so in place of narrative, which, yeah, we could go into the whole, like, rise of industrialism and fall of humanity thing with like a picture of grass, but it's, you know, it falls away because it's really not what's important. It's about like you seeing how in love someone is with the physicality of the world. And this unedited quality you can find in a lot of her photos, which really adds up to something when you get to the portraiture aspect. And so again here you can see how in love she is because she gets to the gentleness. Like it's just, I think just tissue paper, right? And it's folded. So she gets to the gentleness of how the light falls on this particular surface texture and how it affects each one of the layers as light passes through. She allows us to see that because it's so simple. We're not talking about things that we shouldn't be, you know. And so the second thing that I notice about her work is that I sort of see all of her photos as a form of self-portrait. In all of them, you can kind of see them as an image of Letizia. And so from this one, I see it maybe the most, because first of all, the viewpoint is, you know, from under the flowers, so you get this feeling of like, of her and therefore you, because you're the viewer, being so small in front of the smallest thing on earth, essentially, that we can see. But like, it makes you feel like the world just goes over you and you're so tiny in front of it. And at the same time, it speaks of her simplicity, or her wanting to be simple, maybe, because the flowers that are like the glorified piece of this photo are just taking in the sun. They're just like totally open and totally bathed in the sun. Like the simplest position that you can be in front of reality is just laying all of yourself open and enjoying it freely. And that's the centerpiece of this photo. And then sometimes, and then sometimes it's just as simple as like she's actually in the photo and she's not afraid to be in her own photo indirectly. So like, there's the legs and then there's her smiling. And so, I don't know, this was just a perfect example of the most direct example of like, she's not trying to remove herself from her work. She is like embracing you being there even more with her and seeing her make it. So that she's almost making it with you still. And like even looking at, you know, hanging meat, and you can see how much she's enjoying taking that picture, you know. And then this one also, so this is kind of, I see it as a self-portrait because it gets to something that's so essentially human. And again, she's talking about the particularity of the one out of many. You know, there's all of these cow backs that this poor thing is just like buried in, but he's peeking out. And so like, in this one, to me, she's speaking of the fact that she knows that like, you are one of many. And then the last thing that I notice about her work is that it's the self in response to others. And so, you can see how she is with people, which is really amazing when you think of it, because that's what you want your art to be. You want it to be loving. You want it to be how you love people. You want to love them through your work. And so it shows how much patience she looks at people with, so much so that you feel like you could just watch these people for hours and they would never notice. You know, they would never mind, they would never like look up at you and tell you to stop looking at them, because it's so patient and it's full of love that you can look at them endlessly. And again, because there's not that editing quality that gets in the middle of you and the subject, you can see that these are people, you understand that these are people she lives a daily life with. She knows them to the flesh, and she brings them to you that way. And so you never, like the grass, again, could have been pumped up in Photoshop, but instead, like, you almost don't even notice the grass because the flesh just glows naturally, not through Photoshop. It just glows because it's part of a human, you know? And you see that person so thoroughly as a person because of that. So again, it's her being totally in love with the fact that we're earthly, totally in love with it. And so because of this patience that she approaches people with, you can see, you're able to observe moments of total discovery that other people are having in their lives. So indirectly, you're able to observe that. So like, I love this photo because it's this person who's looking at this new strange thing, and she has total attitude on her face, like she's disgusted and confused by it, and yet she puts her hand out to touch it. So like, it's so, I don't know, it's such a common human reaction to something new and strangely intriguing that like you can't help yourself to touch it, but like you're confused why why you want it so badly. And so, but this is a moment that's happening with her alone, totally internal, but we're able to be part of it also. This one actually reminded me of a moment that I was at the cloisters, and there was this little baby boy, and a butterfly came and was just hanging out with him. And watching his interaction just made me realize how much we can get from other people just watching them and just seeing the moments that they're being touched by something that maybe they don't even realize what it is yet. But as someone who's seeing them from a distance in the third person, we know what's happening, and it's such a beautiful moment in their life, and as a third person you can almost appreciate it more than they can in the moment, and that one reminded me of this. Then the last one that, I wanted to talk about, that kind of concludes everything really well, is this one. I don't know if someone, or I mean, I guess I can hold it. Sorry. This one, yeah, it's one of the first ones that I was drawn to. I don't know, can everyone see it though? It's the one of the knives.
No, not good. Yeah, 1 second.
Well, it's the one of the workshop knives, and
No, it's a brother.
Stand against this
Stand
wall.
it, yeah. It's a brother. Yes.
one step.
Perfect.
Okay. And so you can see that each one of the knives is different. So like, oh, we're all special and different. But so, which is its own very powerful message. But so each one of them stands differently. It's so much of a portrait of these knives. But also, the thing that really struck me was that the way that they're arranged, you can tell so clearly that they belong to someone. They're tools, but they're cared for. They're ordered in a certain way. They each have their own spot to stand in. And they all look pretty shiny to me also. So like, you're looking at something that's a tool. It's something that's used. But it speaks of a caring owner in the same way. And you can't tell, I guess, from far away, but also you can tell that it's behind glass. And so she's looking at it through glass, so you get some of her reflection. And so she's also part of this moment, but at the same time, glass means that you can only get so close to the moment. So it also speaks of the distance between her and what she's trying to be close to, the moment that's happening on the other side of it. And so, yeah, I thought that was a good place to end with that one.
So Jen makes that sort of a tough act to follow. I don't study art, so I'm going to be a lot more basic. But I mean, first I'd just like to thank Crossroads for asking us to speak about Letizia. It was really a wonderful experience to really take a closer look at her photographs, to really reflect on such an impacting life, because I mean, at least for me, it's very easy to just see a bunch of images and not really get to the